everybody, it's Suzanne A. Wells, and today I've got Eileen with us, and she is new to the eBay scene and has been doing exceptionally well. So I wanted to get her on to talk about what she's done, how she got here, to inspire some of you guys who are either just starting or waiting to start to be successful with your eBay business. So how you doing this morning, Eileen?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. So we're going to start off with a little bit about you. Where do you live?
I live in Annapolis, Maryland, about a mile from the Chesapeake Bay.
Okay, so that's probably a great thrifting area.
I was thinking about that this morning because I knew you'd ask me. The closest thrift store to me is a 15-minute drive. If I want to go 30 minutes, I can hit 9 or 10 of them.
9 or 10? Do you often hit that many?
No. No.
We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a link to her store below the video. You can check out what she sells, and you've been just having some amazing sales lately, so we're going to talk about all that. Tell us about your journey to eBay. When did you start selling?
I only started selling March 31st of this year, 2019. But before that, I was on Etsy for a year and a half, and I still am, because I collect 1950s vintage colorful tablecloths. It's a very specific niche. And I have a pretty big collection, and plus I love vintage. So I've been picking up vintage here and there over the years of whatever. And I looked around one day and I thought, I need to weed some of this out. So I got on Etsy and started selling on Etsy, got my feet wet there, and I have enjoyed that experience. But then early this year, I had gallbladder surgery, and I'm, sitting recovering from gallbladder surgery, and I fell down that YouTube rabbit hole of videos, and I found one of your videos, and I then began watching a whole bunch of selling on eBay videos and realized, oh my gosh, I can sell so many more things other than that narrow vintage category if I go onto eBay. And I had heard some not so good things about eBay, like it's just a yard sale and it's not easy to work with or whatever. And that has not been the case. I've had a great experience on eBay. So I, went live in the spring and never looked back.
That's a great story. I'm wondering if I should change my YouTube channel title to the Surgery Recovery Channel. Of like, well, you're like having to rest and recover, so you get on YouTube and who knows where you're going to end up.
That's right.
So you were on Etsy, and that's very different. I did Etsy for about a year and a half when it first came on the scene, and it's difficult to get traction unless you have a very specific product. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm only one person's experience. I've done really well there and can't complain, but I find, there's parameters there that I find really frustrating. And now you may have heard about the whole new kerfuffle over at Etsy is they're trying to push everybody into shipping for free. Well, if you sell vintage, you can offer free shipping and be fair to everybody. If you have someone on the West Coast versus the East Coast and you have a 3-pound item, the shipping's going to be very different. So if you slap free shipping on there, either the seller or the buyer is going to be losing money. So a lot of people.
Yeah, that was one thing that was very confusing. Well, hard to build into your business when I was doing it was that shipping, because some of the things I was selling were vintage, like quilts and bigger items. And it was just like that. eBay's calculated shipping is just, it's fair no matter where it goes. It's fair to the buyer and the seller. And I wondered why Etsy didn't get on board with that, but it's their system. I'm sure they have reasons for everything, but I think I've heard that a lot from people coming to eBay, that they just lose so much money on the shipping because it's either flat rate or now they're pushing that free shipping.
Yep. And you can raise your prices, but then it makes your price look too high. It's not a good situation. So I don't know if I'll stay there or not. I'm going to evaluate after the holiday season and see if I'm going to stay on Etsy or if I'm just going to move everything over to eBay. I can get more money for some things on Etsy, but in the grander scheme of things, that may just not be worth it. It may be easier to just be all on one platform.
Yeah, and are you doing both right now? Have
I,
items
I am, but when you do one, the other one suffers because it's all about how often you're listing. So
right?
I'm not as active on Etsy, so sales are not as active.
Do you think the push for free shipping is because of Amazon and now eBay's pushing it?
Um, I do think it's because of Amazon. Um, and it's kind of interesting because Etsy says, we're not a big box store. We're full of unique items and unique sellers, but then they want to push the free shipping like the big box stores. It doesn't make sense. So my theory is that, once they sold and became public, well, now they have a responsibility to the shareholders, and it's not so much about the individual shops anymore as it used to be.
Yeah, and I think that whole free shipping marketing gimmick is just a gimmick because
Yeah.
people are smarter than that. They look at how much they're paying for something, and Amazon is a little different because you have that Prime membership,
Yeah.
and I have an Amazon account, and I kind of revisited that as a customer lately because I'm on the 4th floor of an apartment building and they're in here every day anyway delivering, and I'm like, might as well get them to throw some stuff on the truck for me, so and bring it up here. They're going to my next door neighbor, so they might as well bring me some stuff. But
Yep.
I think that free shipping as a gimmick just doesn't really work because you know how much you're paying for something, and
Yes.
you're not fooling anybody. Buyers are smarter than that, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So you were doing Etsy and then you came to eBay to check that out and started doing very well. So is eBay your only household income?
It is not. I consider this my hobby business. My husband has a good job. He's getting close to retirement. So we're set. We don't need to worry so much about paying all the bills and stuff. But this is a great hobby business for me. It keeps me busy. I'm enjoying the fun of it, and it's as you head into retirement, it's money. So that's a good thing.
Are you a baby boomer?
I am.
Okay. I'm right on the edge there. So
yeah, I think you're just a couple of years younger than me. Yeah.
So you're in that whole group of people that retirement's coming, but you don't want to just sit there and do nothing. You want to have something interesting to do, and you have all this stuff in your house, and you have all this knowledge from life. So you're just that perfect candidate to do really Etsy or eBay because of all those factors. So good for you. What is your professional background?
My first career before my kids were born was I worked for the Department of Defense as an analyst. And then I decided to stay home and raise my children. So during that period of time, I became a freelance writer in a very specialized field, which paid great. But a few years ago, I was just really ready for a change. So hence Etsy and eBay.
Yeah, that writing is very isolating. It's very mental, and
Yes.
it's like very sedentary.
Yes.
I've done that too. So it's like, it's a good additional stream of income. I think it would be really hard to be a full-time writer all the time because you just have to be so mental and focused all the time.
It was great to do it with a family because it was only part-time. I had a real specialized field, so the pay was really great. I would go out, find my own clients, work as much or as little as I wanted to. So it was wonderful for raising a family and being able to stay home with my family and make good money. But, things change and our interests change. And so here I am having a blast with eBay.
Oh, no doubt that writing at home is a great way to make money. But having done it myself, I can see why adding online selling to that would be a nice change, just a little variety in your day, doing something different.
Exactly.
Getting those sales and shipping and taking pictures and all the different parts of it. Keep it interesting, I think.
Yes, because, I agree.
For me, it's like, okay, I'm kind of brain dead, but I can take pictures when I feel like that. Right. Or like this morning, I've already washed all the stuff I bought yesterday and got that all situated to take pictures. And you can do that when your brain power is a little bit lower. So I like that you can mix it up. So let's talk about what you sell. You mentioned the vintage tablecloths, and that's kind of where you started. What else are
Yeah.
you selling?
Well, I sell my tablecloths mostly on Etsy, but on eBay, kind of a little bit of everything except not a lot of clothes. I don't enjoy doing that. You know, hard goods, stuff around the house. I seem to have a real affinity for books, and I have a source for books. Um, you know, household items, home deck, you know, just whatever, you know, yard sale stuff, thrift store stuff.
So you're kind of wide open to anything except you know you don't like clothes.
Yes, and I'm learning what I also other things I don't like. You know, I picked up a few VCRs at yard sales, and I still haven't tested them, so they're sitting. And I'm thinking, you know, probably not electronics because I don't feel like, you know, doing that next step. So I'm kind of learning what I do and don't like. So I don't foresee doing a lot of electronics. Don't foresee doing a lot of clothes. So yeah, just whatever comes along that looks interesting to me that I, you know, check on my phone and say, yep, I'll try that.
Well, I saw the brown bag cookie mold.
Yeah.
Actually, I've already done a top 100 item video about that. It was already done and in the queue. And then I saw your huge sale and I was like, talk about that. Like, what was so special about that one? How much did you pay for it? And how much did you get for it?
This is one of my favorite stories. So one of the ways I get items is to do online auctions and then go pick them up. And the biggest company that people might recognize is maxsold.com. So there was a local Annapolis sale, an estate liquidating through Max Sold, and I bid on 3 or 4 lots from that estate, and I only got one. And the lot that I got, I wasn't happy with. It was just sort of like one I threw into the mix, thinking, oh, if I only paid $11 for that, I'd be happy. But I didn't win any of the other lots, and so it's kind of a pain. You want to, when you do an auction, you want to make it worth your while to trek out and schlep the stuff home. And, you know, so, but you know, $11, I had to go across town, up a steep driveway, yada, 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 to get this lot. But my husband came with me, thankfully. But while we were there, I learned of this whole new thing. And a lot of these auctions don't sell everything online in the auction. They have more stuff in the house that it's just make a pile, make an offer. So I picked up my lot and started looking around the house, and there was all kinds of stuff in the house. And I went through every kitchen cabinet, made a big pile, and there were a few brown bag cookie molds in the mix. And I didn't look anything up while I was there. I just made a pile, made them a super low ball offer of like probably 4 or 5 big boxes of stuff. They took it. I was amazed they took it. Got home and started looking stuff up. And so one of the cookie molds was only worth like $15. One was worth between 60 and 75. And then there was the mermaid. And the mermaid, it was from the early 80s. It must have been one of the company's first molds. And there was only one comp in the past year on both eBay and Terapeak. And it had been an auction and it had sold for $122.50. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put $149 on mine, buy it now and see what happens. It sold overnight. So I shipped it out and packed it up real well, and the person got it and they were not happy with it. And they returned it. They opened it. It was my first return. They opened a return and they described in a note to me everything they were unhappy with. Well, turns out that some of the lines, like the embossed lines on it, they said would not make a good cookie impression. And the person was like, I've never seen a cookie mold in this bad a shape, and I've collected over 100 of them. I thought, okay. So I relisted it. I thought, I'm going to try an auction this time because it sold for $149, buy it now really fast. Let me try an auction and see what kind of traction I get. So I put it on auction starting at $139, just picked a number. And in the description, I disclosed everything my buyer taught me about the flaws of that mold, even though I had taken really good pictures and she should have seen it from the pictures. But anyway, so I disclosed everything. That cookie mold, it kind of hung out with a few bids in the lower end of the range for the first few days. And then the last few minutes, zoom, and it went to $255. And so I got $255 for that, set a new comp for that, for that item, shipped it out, and the buyer is very happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because, you know, people freak out when they get a return. It's like, ugh, and nobody likes that, but you turned it around and you made more money the second time around and used what the buyer taught you. And, you know, so not all returns are bad.
I feel like I should send that returning virus, you know, flowers or something.
Yeah.
Because without her returning it, I wouldn't have seen that big of a sale.
Yeah, say, hey, thanks for the info. I appreciate that info
Yep.
on, you know, brown bag cookie molds, and now you know all that going forward. So,
Yep.
what are some of the other big sales you've had?
Some of the biggest sale I've had was a ham radio receiver that my husband is a ham radio operator. So about 3 years ago, he went to a flea market. This was before I was selling on eBay. And there was a woman there that was just basically getting rid of some of her husband's old equipment. He had passed away. So she sold him this radio receiver, I think for $20. And he knew right away, he knew it was a really good receiver. And the woman said, I don't even know if it works, but if it doesn't, you know, here's my name and number, call me and, you know, I'll take it back and give you your money back. And he's like, well, for $20. And this poor widow, we're not going to worry about returning it. But he brought it home. He enjoyed it for 3 years. It was in great shape, a really good model ham radio. And then he just decided, okay, I'm done. So sell it. And so I put it up for $295 and I sold it, I think almost for full asking price. It took maybe, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks to sell. So that was my biggest sale. And then my husband was also cleaning out all his old military history games, military history board games. Now, he grew up in Baltimore, and there was a famous board game company in Baltimore called Avalon Hill, and his next door neighbor worked there. So she would bring him home these Avalon Hill games when he was a teenager, and he loved them and all this history stuff. So he's been, you know, schlepping them around from move to move in the house for wherever, for however long. So he was able to part with a bunch of them, and they are good money makers. I sold them anywhere from like $25 to $125. So we're probably half a dozen, 8 of them. They were good sellers. I started clearing out all my personal learning materials from when I was a freelance copywriter. So, you know, a lot of those are like conference DVDs and educational books and stuff, and they're not cheap, some of them. So I've been selling them off bit by bit, and they're bringing me, you know, $100, $250. So, you know, good money in that stuff as well.
It just seems like you have a really good eye for what sells, or like you already had a lot of this in your house and you're just putting it up there.
Yeah.
Because just, you said you started about 6 months ago, because now we're in September of 2019. And I kept seeing all of these things and they're all very different.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that if you just focus on what you already have, there's just no telling what it can be worth. Like those games of your husband's, I'm sure he just like so glad he kept them and didn't just sell them in a garage sale or donate them or whatever, because, you know, all of us that were teenagers in the 80s and we gave away our concert t-shirts and all the stuff that is now worth so much. We're like, I know. The Nike running shoes that everybody had, you know, the waffle bottom shoes that you didn't even run in them, you just wore them around. You know, it was like, oh, I had some of those. Oh, I had that, you know, and you're kicking yourself. But how could you possibly know something like that would be collectible?
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Did he think those games would ever be collectible, or was it just lucky that you still had them?
It was just lucky that we still had them, because he just loved them and enjoyed them. And unfortunately, we're both pack rats, so it's really hard for us to part with stuff. So the fact that he parted with it, the fact that they made so much more money, I mean, that's a sweet deal. That's sweet for him.
And I don't think that it's unfortunate that you're a pack rat. Now it's quite fortunate.
Yeah. Well, I've even made this new little rule for myself. For every, you know, 3 things I list that I've gone and buy, I have to list 1 or 2 from around the house, because we just have so much stuff here to get rid of.
Now, do you have kids?
We have 4 kids. 2 of them are still at home. They're in their early 20s, but they're still at home. So, yep.
Okay. So, I mean, you just think you're doing them a favor, because at some point they're going to have to deal with everything in your house.
Well, one of my kids has said, I'm just lighting a match to this house when you die, Mom. So I'm thinking, I get it, honey. I get it. Yeah.
But, you know, you have the time and the ability and the foresight to do it now and kind of at least lighten the load on that, but enjoy the proceeds from the sales. What do you do with your eBay money? Do you do anything special?
And it's kind of hard to say just because all the household income goes into one pot. No, but we like to travel, and so that's certainly travel money. And we need to do some home improvements before my husband completely retires. So that's going into the new heat pump fund and the renovate the bathroom fund. So yeah, I mean, it certainly goes to good use.
Well, maybe down the road, once you get all the house projects done, if ever, you can start using that money to do something more fun, because that's kind of your station in life now is, getting the kids raised, getting them
Yep.
on their own, taking care of the house, and then don't forget yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I'll tell you what, though, those kids, the stuff they leave behind is money. I've sold we cleaned out a closet, found a bunch of the boys' old toys, and I've been selling that off bit by bit. I've got right now up for auction, I've got a game called Heroscape. It's not the Hero Quest,
yeah.
it's Heroscape. And there's like these tiles you build terrain with. Well, I've got this giant box of them, and I've got them listed now for $149. Just this box of plastic stuff. And I've sold some Dragon Ball Z. I sold like a dozen figures for $65-70. There's more I can't remember, but the Nintendo Power magazines. My son had 5 years worth of Nintendo Power magazines, and he puts them out by the back door near the recycle bin, and I'm like, "Are you putting those in recycle?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Nope, I want those." And I quick looked them up, divided them into 2 lots, and between the 2 lots, I got $140 for these old magazines.
Well, you're just recycling them in a different way.
Exactly.
Well,
I'm thinking, I've fed you all these years, I'm taking your magazines to
Well, and I know what you mean by those kids leave a trail of money, because when I first got into this, my kids were 6 and 8, and that was the age of outgrowing shoes like crazy and outgrowing toys and stuff. But my son would say, like maybe he wasn't playing a video game very often anymore, but he would say before he went to school, "Don't sell that. I'm not done with it yet." He's like 6 or 7 years old, and he knew. He's like, if it's not nailed down or I'm not using it, it could be gone when I get home from school.
Yeah, around my house now they hear a lot, "Sell it." Yeah.
And so then I started, putting a box out, like, stuff you're done with, put it in here so there's no confusion.
Yeah.
So, but when those boys, especially when they get up, 12 to 15, and they're just outgrowing shoes like crazy and clothes, and it's like they don't wear them long enough to wear them out, you better believe I'm selling that stuff.
Yep.
So good for you. Now, we talked a little bit about your process for sourcing. Do you have a schedule, or you just kind of do it whenever you feel like it?
Well, weekends, obviously, with yard sales. I source from different methods. I do thrift stores, which, seem to me to be very picked over. I don't think they're not the first place I would go anymore. I seem to do really well with community yard sales, and really well if I can get to an estate sale or the end of an auction where it's make a pile, make an offer. The actual estate sales, the first days or even the second days, they're so crowded and there's so many pickers there, and the prices are pretty high anymore around here. So I do better with the yard sale stuff, or like I said, there was an estate sale near me, and it was a gentleman in his 60s and his mother. They were leaving the 4,000 square foot family home to move to a retirement community, and their home sold much more quickly than they thought. And they had to just get out of there. So they had an estate sale, and they ran it themselves, and it was pretty much make a pile, make an offer. And John and I spent probably $200 over 2 days there, but we got some stuff for personal use. I got some amazing oil paintings. My husband got a telescope, and a whole bunch of other stuff to sell. And like it was that set of artist pastels that I think you had featured in a video. I got that there. I have some other art supplies I have to put up yet, but I got so much stuff out of that estate sale, and they were pretty much taking whatever offer you would give them just to get rid of the stuff. Those are Those are the good ones. They don't
Well,
come along often, but when they do, you know.
but when that is on your plate and you are the surviving child of, a death, and you have to do something with all that stuff. I saw this in my very short real estate job when I was working for a realtor, and that was part of what I did, was help them get the house cleaned out and ready. And, it's, especially if it was an unexpected death. And so the people are dealing with what to do. And it was amazing to me how many people are just not prepared. Like, okay, mom and dad are in their 80s now. We need to like get a plan of what we're going to do and how this is going to work. And people just don't want to think about it. And so when it does happen, and either both parents are moved into assisted living, or, one of them dies or whatever, it's just chaotic. And everybody's the surviving children have to step away from their life to deal with this huge thing. A lot of times the house has been there for 50 years and just so much stuff in it. They just want it over. They just want the stuff gone. And it's not all about how much can we make on everything we sell. It's like, we need to get this over with so I can get back to my life, because this is so huge. And the emotional part of losing a parent. So I think estate sales, you can find more than a lot of people think, because they're like, oh, don't they just mark everything up? Well, it depends on the company, depends on if a company's running it, because it could be just the family doing it. Right. They don't want to hire somebody and pay them. But you have to kind of learn how to do it, I think. Is that?
And if you learn in your town, which are the better estate sale companies that you like to go to as well? Because there's one that only has like 2 or 3 sales a year, but she's great. She'll let you bundle stuff and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the others are like, nope, nothing gets marked down to the last day, and maybe not even then. And, so you have to just kind of see what's in your area.
Oh, exactly. I do them sometimes, but I'll look at what company it is, because don't go on the first day if, A1 estate sales is doing it, because you can't buy anything. It's too expensive. That's right. For the people who want to buy stuff to keep. Yeah. For the resellers, you got to go on the second or last day and try to make deals.
Yes. And then I have another source. In my area, there is a used book sale for a charity organization several times a year. And everybody in town brings their books to this book sale. And the books are not super cheap, but I have found that if you can find certain sets of them, or build, like I'm still building a Magic Treehouse lot, but I pay 50 cents for a Magic Treehouse book, and I've got the first 50 minus 3 in the middle. As soon as I get those, I can flip that lot for $150. So I go to that as often as they have it, and I do stuff. And I just found out they have a dealer day the day before they open to the public, but you pay $50 extra. But I'm thinking, I think I'm going to just check it out. You don't have to pay the $50 till you get up to checkout, so you can go in, see if there's enough there to make it worth your while, and get it if it is. So yeah.
Well, you said you do that like every 6 weeks?
Roughly. Yeah. 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
Now, you don't use any kind of scanning device. You just look for what you think will sell.
Yes. And now I actually have a list that I take with me. What I have found sells really well are certain children's book sets. If you can find some homeschool curriculum, that's tough to find. They do audio books there, and they mark them way down. Like sometimes get 3 audio books for $2 or something. So I can build like a lot of, like I built a lot of, what was the guy's name? John Sanderford or something. He's like some thriller writer. 5 DVDs. I maybe had $4 into it, sold it for 30. And then what else am I doing there? I discovered the cozy mysteries. So cozy mysteries is this whole new genre, and I've never been a mystery reader. That Guideposts, I think, started it, but now there's other publishers. So they're very lighthearted mysteries, but they're hardcover. They're in beautifully illustrated covers, sets, and they, just do a whole series of them, and they're worth more as a series than they are individually. So I was going in and because it was a multi-volume set, they were only charging me $1 a volume. So if I got 12 volumes of a cozy mystery series, I could flip that for anywhere between $30 and $70, just depending on the demand for it. So, that's the kind of stuff I look for there.
Yeah, and I think book selling, people feel like you have to have a scanning app and all that stuff. And I started selling books back in like 2009.
Yeah.
And when all that stuff came out with the scanning apps and everything, but if you're new to it, it's learning to understand what the app is telling you, because it doesn't say buy this item, it will sell for $100. You have to see what is the data it's giving you and make a decision. And the human brain makes that decision on if you want to buy it or not. So
Yes.
I feel like even though there is a lot of technology for book selling that intimidates people, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can just learn, like, oh, the vintage Richard Scarry books, they sell great.
I
Or
sold 2 of those.
yeah, or like leather bound Bibles do really well.
Yeah, I picked those up there too. Yeah. And what I have found too with the fiction is it's multi-volume series, the complete set, the complete Harry Potter set. I've been slowly building a paperback lot. It's called the Wheel of Time series. It's a sci-fi fantasy, and there's 15 books in the lot. If I can manage to complete that, that's like $100. So yeah, so the value tends to be in the sets and not in the individual volumes from what I'm seeing.
Well, and I've seen people sell like vintage sets of Nancy Drew books and Little House on the Prairie books and those kind of things where they're in sets. So, if you're out there listening and you know there is profit in books, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist, even though Eileen is.
No, I'm not.
Figure out which books to pick, because textbooks are good. The weirder the better, like these really niche topics, like how to build a canoe out of wood, or I've seen stuff like that, rafting the North Georgia mountains, or the stuff that the doomsday preppers use.
Yes.
They're going to be all ready for no technology, so they want those books on how to make baskets and how to cook over a fire and how to make shoes and all those kind of things. There's a series called the Firefox books. Have you heard of
have them
those?
in a personal library. Yeah.
Okay, so those are all about surviving in the Appalachian Mountains. I think it was an experiment through a college, and they studied these people like in the 60s and 70s maybe, and they just documented how they do everything. And it's no technology needed, but those are real popular, especially for doomsday preppers, to have those on hand.
Yes, and I would say a tip for your listeners is every box set that you come across, like at a yard sale or whatever, look it up. You just never know. I picked up, I think it was 6 hardcover Lion King storybooks in a box at a yard sale, and it was from the early 90s, and they looked like they'd never been read, and they wanted $1.50 for it. So I, of course, looked it up and grabbed it. Sold it overnight for $50-$60. So, and then other box sets that you're convinced are going to be worth something aren't worth diddly. So again, look up every box set, because some of them, they'll go quickly.
And those sets can be heavy to ship, but that's just, it is what it is. You don't have to worry about bubble wrap or anything, unless it's, a collectible leather Bible or something really special. But you can just put whichever shipping options, let the customer pick. And they can get heavy, but a lot of people leave them behind because they're intimidated by the whole book selling process and think that you have to know all this technology. And it's just like everything else, you get a feel for it. You learn by doing, and you'll learn what works.
Well, I took a chance on a book lot at an auction, online auction. I think it's 15, 16 volumes of the Oxford Dictionary in the white dust jacket from the early 70s. Each volume must weigh 10 pounds. There's 16 of those volumes. Well, I looked up comps. There was one comp for it, $500 in the past year on Terapeak. So for $15, I'll take the chance. Maybe that's a one-off that, really will never happen again. But for $15, I can take that chance. But now it's sitting in my basement, and I'm thinking, I have to photograph these. I have to pack them. I got to lift them. But for $500 might be worth it.
So are you a book person? Are you a reader?
Oh my gosh, we are just, my husband and I joke, but it's not really a joke. we think 3,000 books, and a few years ago we got rid of 400 of them and you couldn't tell. So I'm actually getting better and better about letting go of them. Certain other family members, well, maybe not so much. But yeah, we are totally book people. Yep.
Well, see, and that speaks to when you're new on eBay or want to get into it, you start with what you know and love.
Yes.
Yes. For you, the hunt for books is fun.
It is.
You enjoy that, and you've read a lot, and you know what's good, and you know what would be more valuable because of your experience.
Except Suzanne, I would say that I didn't go out of the gate knowing what would be valuable. The thing that has absolutely surprised me about eBay is it's very counterintuitive. What you are convinced will be worth a lot of money isn't, and what you would never expect to bring a lot of money does. It's just like my husband has a bunch of old railroad stuff from when he was a kid in the 60s and early 70s, and we're thinking, oh, that must be so valuable, that vintage. Not really. I mean, you can get money for it, but it's not, not a huge money maker. But then there'll be something else and you would never think it would be valuable, and it's like you get a lot of money for it. So look everything up. You just never know. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, well, it's a product line that you enjoy.
Absolutely.
So it's like, everyone knows I don't like glassware. I don't like dishes. I think everything in that department looks the same to me. I don't want to flip over every plate and look at it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't like it. And so, you know what? I don't have to do it if I don't like it. Yep. So you just kind of naturally gravitate towards what you like. I didn't mean to insinuate like you knew everything about books.
Right.
But,
yeah, it is. It really is. I'm just drawn to them. I have an affinity for them.
Right.
Yep. And certain other vintage stuff. I have an eye for it. I love it. Don't know if it's worth anything, but I find that I'm getting better at just picking something up, thinking, I bet that's worth something, and it is more and more. And I have, you just develop that eye, I think.
It's just like practice, whether you're an athlete or a musician. This is the same thing. It takes a lot of practice. And those of you that keep asking, what percentage do you take on best offer? And how often do you send offers? And do you do promoted listings? All of that stuff is completely experimenting with your own products. There's no flat percentage, and it's the analytical people that like this information, but it doesn't work like that. It's just like, oh yeah, I've had that for a year. I'm sick of it. I paid $3. You can have it for 10. Get it out of my face so I can move on.
Yeah. And even the experienced people, the market's going to change and they're going to have to learn it all over again anyway.
Yeah, because it constantly changes. You know what? I go to YouTube and I take videos down if something is not good anymore. That's part of my business model, I guess, on YouTube, is trying to keep people current, because there's so much bad information, and YouTubers don't necessarily take the videos down that are out of date. They want to keep that because it keeps their views higher and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, no, that's wrong now. I'm not going to put that out there. So as soon as you learn, you think you know it, you realize how much you don't know. And there's some kind of graph or thing I came across a few weeks ago, and it's like, the more of an expert you are on something, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes.
It's like, the more you learn, the more you realize I don't know as much as I thought. So eBay is exactly like that. So how many listings do you have now?
I have like 215 as of this morning, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Have you tracked your average profit per item or any of that yet?
A little bit. So August was insanely great for me. I don't know. Well, I think I have a theory why, and that is that I hit just over 200 listings in August, and I hit just over 200 listings, and then we went away for a week. And while I was gone, I had my best week ever to date. I sold 21 items, and gross sales were just over 700, which is insane to me. And then I just looked at my my August gross sales were $2,133.09. So that doesn't count, that doesn't take out eBay fees yet, and it doesn't take out my cost of goods yet. But I mean, that's, to me, that's like, I'm blown away by that. But I think it's because I hit 200 listings, and I really think that was the secret sauce.
That's the universe saying, you're doing the right thing if you can go on vacation and make more than you made when you were at home working on it.
I know. And we went to Williamsburg, Virginia, and we went with my daughter and her family, but my daughter and I drove down and the rest of the family drove down in a different car. So she and I hit all the thrift stores on the way between our house and Williamsburg. And then we dedicated 2 afternoons in the greater Williamsburg area to thrifting. So, and we learned that the Newport News thrift stores are way better than the Williamsburg thrift stores. I came home with a trunk full of stuff. Yep. So we had fun on vacation thrifting as well.
So now you know that for the next time.
You bet. I have it. I'm keeping it all in a file. Yep.
There you go. And so I'm guessing you didn't put your store on vacation. You just increased your handling time?
I did. I just did that. Yep. And it works like a charm.
Perfect. That's what everyone wants to hear is like, there's a lot of misinformation about how eBay can be so hands off. And I don't believe that. I think any business, you've got to be in it doing it, but to be able to go on vacation and have your best week ever is really something.
Yeah, it was a good week.
Good for you. Okay, so we talked about where you go, what you buy, and your average cost for an item is about what?
I would say anywhere from $1 to $5 for an individual item, and then if I do auction lots, I think the cheapest auction lot was $10 and the most expensive one I spent on was $72. And I would say that I look at the auctions and I maybe only get, I don't know, a fraction of the ones that I bid on because I really will not bid beyond a certain point. And that's okay because I have more stuff than I need in inventory. But I do enjoy looking at them and seeing what's out there.
Okay, so you said between $1 and $5 for most sale items.
Yeah,
yard sale items.
Yard sale, thrift store.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's in line with pretty much everybody that comes on these interviews is about that range. Yeah. So you're right in line with everybody else. So you are doing all the work with your business. You're not outsourcing anything. Does your family help at all?
They'll run something to the post office if they're taking a package. A lot of times my husband will join me. He just learned I just told him the other day about the book sale and how there's now a day earlier for dealers. And he goes, oh, maybe I'll take off Friday afternoon. I'll help you carry books. I'll go with you. So he'll like help me unload the car or, when I came across an estate sale near us where it was that big estate where the elderly gentleman was just trying to liquidate the household, the 4,000 square foot household, I was actually in a boot from a sprained ankle and I had to carry all these heavy books. So I called my husband at home. I said, can you come over here? I need your help. So he got in the car and came over and helped me schlep all the stuff to the car. So mostly it's supportive stuff like that.
Okay, perfect. And you're doing great the way you have it set up now. So we talked about if you had any profit goals, and I think you just are going to see what you can do, just more of the same of what you're already doing.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the sweet spot between, as long as this stays fun, I just want to maximize the money I get out of that fun. I don't necessarily need to hit a certain income goal, but I want it to be worth my time. So I think I'm really hitting my stride. So I'm very happy with where I'm at. Yeah.
You are. How many hours a day or week would you say you put into this business?
That's such a hard question. I would say maybe 15 to 20 hours a week, but I don't count time sourcing because I consider sourcing time recreational because it's so much fun. Mm-hmm. If I counted that, it would be more, but that to me is just like other people might, go to a show or, but for me, it's recreation.
Yes. Welcome to the dark side of eBay.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for anybody to pin down how many hours because a lot of what we do is multitasking. You're washing the clothes you just bought while you're cooking dinner, that's going on, and you can be listing on your phone, your computer when you're doing something else and in a waiting room somewhere or watching TV and doing your listings. And so it's hard to say what is actual work. And I don't think, again, you could say, if you work on this business 20 hours a week, you're going to make X amount of dollars, because it's just so many variables. You know, what you're selling, what profit do you want? What kinds of things are you selling, as far as how much prep time do they take? And that's why a lot of people hate clothing, is because it takes prep time. But, you know, it's just what you like. And if you like doing it, then it's not like work.
Yeah.
So you're in the right place. Okay, well, you've given us a lot of great information for somebody who's just been doing this for 6 months, and you know, the amount of big sales you've had, and you're very consistent. I see you posting a lot every week, showing us what you did. So keep that up. Is there anything else you want to share with newer sellers?
Not really. Just keep learning and keep listing.
Yeah, even now, when you were on vacation, you weren't listing.
That is correct. I was not. And what day was it? I think it was Sunday. I try to list like 1 to 5 things every day, but on Sunday I was feeling burned out, and I thought, I'm allowed to have a day off. I don't need to list. So because I don't want to get to hate this and get it to be a chore.
Right.
So yeah.
I'm with you on that. My minimum is 3 items for both of my stores. So 6 items total. But when you're focusing on the higher profit items, that's enough.
Right.
And some days you can just go through your older listings that have been up there for months and months, and take those down and then rework them and put them back up and stuff like that, where because there are days, me too, and it's like I cannot look at that computer for 1 more second.
Yep. I'll set little goals for myself. Like, so some days I'll think, okay, I want to list 6 items today. Another day I'll think, okay, my goal for the day is to list $100 worth of inventory, whether that's 1 item or 10. This week, my goal is, I have some Halloween costumes and some clothing pieces that would make good Halloween costumes. My goal is to get them listed. You know, so I just set these little mini goals for myself, and just try and meet them that way. And that just keeps it fun, and, you know, it's like the elephant, 1 bite at a time.
Yeah, and I think for any entrepreneur or person who works at home, that's what you have to do, is set goals for yourself. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's, you know, what do I want to accomplish today? You know, that pile of stragglers that's been sitting there for 3 weeks. Okay, I'm going to tackle that. And you tackle it, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
So, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and tell us your story. Again, Eileen's information is below the video. You can check out her store, and she's in my Facebook group, so you can chat with her there. But you're doing great, so keep up the great work, and we're never going to run out of stuff to sell, are we?
We are not. And for anybody that thinks they are, really get over it, because you won't. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the estate sales. You know, how many people have been there before you, but you still get great stuff even at the very end.
Yeah.
So
yep.
It's all in how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks so much. See you online.
Bye.